Cassie Whithouse. I'm one of the founding members of Winthrop Working Together. I want to thank everyone for coming today and taking some time out of your afternoon to learn about your neighbors and the people that make this community so amazing. I'm very excited to have this group of women here with us. It's super important for us to know each other and communicate with each other, and this is a great opportunity, and hopefully we'll keep doing this with different folks who have an impact on our community. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to Celeste, who's going to be our moderator today.
Thank you, Cassie. I want to thank Cassie. Thank you, Cassie. Huge round of applause. I know this was conceived by Winthrop Working Together, specifically Cassie, Scott, Lee, Julia, and a whole cast of characters that hopefully is going to be first in a series of events. I know it's set up very formally, but it's meant to be kind of an informal dialogue discussion, kind of get to know you situation. You know, a lot of us, and I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, some I know personally and some I've kind of passed in doing business here in Winthrop. I am on the Climate Commission here in Winthrop and also on the Community for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations. So I'm really pleased to be invited to be here to help moderate this conversation. So we want to get started here. We're going to give this wonderful group of ladies, and it's very appropriate that we're starting the inaugural event with Women in Winthrop, the folks that really kind of propel our community forward. So we're just going to kind of go through the list, and I'm going to give these ladies an opportunity to kind of tell us a little bit about themselves, their role here in Winthrop, what got them here, and then we're going to delve into some little topical conversation. Okay? So first I'd like to start with Tracy Honan. She's a former town councilor at large, and she's a business owner here in Winthrop too.
Thank you. I'm going to say my husband's the business owner. But no, so I moved to Winthrop about 25 years ago, and when I first got here, I spent my first 15 years not involved in the community whatsoever. I went to work in biotech in Cambridge, and I came home, I walked my dog, I ate dinner, I went to bed. Next day, wash, repeat, rinse, repeat. I just was not connected whatsoever. My friends were my husband's friends, the people he grew up with and his family. And then I started to get involved in the community. I was asked to be an interim health inspector. I was appointed to the Board of Health, and then I was eventually a town councilor. And that's when I started to build my own friends, my own group of friends, my own group of people that I was connected to. And my world in Winthrop opened up. I met the most amazing people. Give me a little. Some of those people are my dearest friends today. And I wouldn't have otherwise met them if I didn't become more involved in my community. And it was hard at first to go from not being involved. You know, I didn't come from a family that was very community active, or active in their community. My dad was a union iron worker, my mom was a secretary, very blue collar, very not involved in getting involved. And so this was very new to me, and it was very uncomfortable. But you know, when we push ourselves beyond our discomfort, we find what we need to find and where we should be. And I found a place that I really love here. And it's changed Winthrop for me. It's changed my life, becoming involved. At the beginning, I was given opportunities, and I was given, you know, people kind of welcomed me, they kind of introduced me, they pushed me, and that's what I needed. I needed that kind of in. I needed somebody to suggest, hey, you might want to think about this. Hey, I think you'd be good at that. I needed that. And so that's what I hope to give back to other people, is, you know, find those people that I think would be excellent on committees, excellent counselors, you know, people that want to be involved, that I know would be, that have the background, the experience, the talent. There's so much. It's like this just a well of experience and talent, and talented women with amazing strengths. And I think that we could be stronger together. You know, I know that this was put on by Winthrop Working Together, and I think we're stronger when Winthrop is working together and tapping that well in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Next, I'd like to introduce Meredith Hurley. Meredith is the Director of Public Health and Clinical Services here in Winthrop.
Hi, everybody. I'm Meredith Hurley. I'm the Director of Public Health here in Winthrop. I have lived in Winthrop for 22 years, almost 23 years. I live down the Point, so I always try to say that because I love the Point. I've lived there. I think it's a wonderful little location to live. I raised my family here. I have 3 kids. They their age is 20, 21, and almost 17. So they've been here we've lived here the whole time that we've raised our kids. So I began my career as an inpatient nurse at Boston Children's Hospital on the neuroscience unit. So I was there for about 12 years. And then about 14 years ago, around the same time that I first met Tracy, there was a little bit of jostling in the health department, and I had a friend reach out to me and say, hey, we need a public health nurse. Like, can you come and do a couple of hours? And I was like, sure, I have no idea what that is. I'm used to taking care of like very sick small humans and like their parents and their siblings. And I said, sure, I'll come in. And very quickly I realized, and I think that Tracy probably did too, is she stepped into the health inspector role. We were like, wow, there's a lot that comes with these roles. So, and I ended up really loving being able to take care of a community versus just taking care of a singular person. So the way that I liken it, it's almost as if instead of caring for 3 patients on the floor, I'm caring for a community as a whole, and so I began working about in 2014 as the public health nurse, and then I transitioned. I worked at Winthrop High School for about 2.5 years, and then I have been the director of public health since 2019. Kind of the running joke was that I took over as director in October of 2019, and the pandemic obviously evolved just a few months later. So the town manager at the time notoriously had said to me as we sat down and we were, preparing to shut down schools and things like that, he said, "You're going to make all your money in the next 6 weeks." And I'm like, 6 weeks? I don't think it was only 6 weeks. So it was, but that was our perspective at the time. So since then, since I have been working in Winthrop, we've built out, it was really my intent and continues to be my intent to innovate the health department and in our delivery here in Winthrop. I think it's such a beautiful community and there's so much opportunity. So in 2014, there was a lot of information around the opioid epidemic and the impacts that it was having on this community. So we were granted a small amount of money, and with that money, we started working directly with the police department and our public safety partners. And what we wanted to do was kind of give a diversion or deflection opportunity so that folks that are utilizing substances in an unhealthy way, instead of arresting them and putting them into incarceration, we were trying to connect them with public health services. So what that meant was that we hired peer recovery coaches to really meet folks where they were at with their recovery journey. And what we evolved from that was we've added public health, mental health clinicians. We have 2 social workers that also work in our department. And then from there, we also realized that folks want to be well, but sometimes things such as housing stability and food access and job training are big barriers for them. So we now have 2 resource navigators that work in our department full time. And then and I can still remember having a conversation with Lieutenant Krisafi where we were talking about, there's so much information around opioids and the impacts, and she in particular was talking about the lack of resources for domestic violence victims, and because there's always a shift in public funding. So we now have a part-time case manager for domestic violence and sexual assault. So all of that sits within the health department. We have a lot more that we want to do, so hopefully we can continue.
Thank you so much. Next, I'd like to introduce Nicole Bottano. Nicole is the broker and owner of Lantern Residential.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Bottano. I'm very honored to be sitting up here with these wonderful ladies. It's empowering. So, a little bit of my background. I have lived and worked in Winthrop my whole life. Never found a reason to leave. My family's been here. I've raised my kids here. And as of the past couple of years, opened up Lantern Residential with my business partner, Leanna Rizzioni. I am someone which I'm sure a lot of you guys in this room know, as women, we're constantly reinventing ourselves. And like the town of Winthrop, which I think is in process of reinventing itself currently. I started real estate and I was a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids and a small baby, and I went through my first home buying process, hated every aspect of it. It was like, I cannot believe that, like, this is like the biggest financial transaction of my life, and I can't believe like the stress that went along with it, and the loss of sleep, and how it all went down. I was like, well, I'm getting my license, and from there it just turned around. So 8 years later, I'm a broker owner of my own brokerage in town. We have 10 agents. I'm not a stay-at-home mom anymore. I'm a single mom. So reinvented myself along the way. I love this community. I love watching, like, it's not the same place that I grew up in, like, not even close, but it's just wonderful, and I love being a part of that. So when the opportunity came, because they go hand in hand, real estate and community, business and community, how do we make it better? And through Lantern, I've been given the opportunity to participate in the community that I love on a different level of saying, hey, we're out there, we can donate, we could do scholarships, we can do fundraising, like whatever it is, it's just about showing up, and this gives me the path and the platform to show up for a community that's been very good to me and pay back. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Next, I'd like to introduce Clara Arayave Ramirez. And Clara is an investment property agent and entrepreneur, and she's a startup mentor here in Winthrop.
Thank you, Celeste. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I am the only, I think, NFW. No, I'm from Winthrop, so oh wow. take my origin, with a grain of salt. We move on. Yeah, I don't, raise your hand if you are the NF. There you go. Do you believe that you're less of a Winthropite because you don't born here? No. Correct. So let's start clarifying that. We moved here 2019, trying to find a place here since 2018 with my husband. For many reasons. At the time, we were living near the border with New Hampshire, but my office was in Cambridge. My first startup was in Cambridge, and his one was in the seaport. He worked from home, but I didn't. So think about a 4 or 5 hour daily commute. And unfortunately, he fell in love with the water and sailing at the time. And I fell in love with how close to Boston it is, but also not only the water, but it's close to the city, but it has a town vibe, and you can walk. Instead of taking the train, you can actually walk. Well, lo and behold, we got our house in the middle of 2019. 6 months later, we were not living it. So I would first 6 months is wake up, go to work, come back, sleep, repeat. Mm-hmm. But we have 2 years to really get to know the whole town, because we walk every mile of it, from Deer Island to every piece of garden everybody has, and really know the nooks and crannies of this town and how wonderful it actually is. So I guess in that case, a blessing in disguise. But I don't know if as an adult you have this challenge of not having any friends when you move to a new place. Mm-hmm. And it was very hard for us we couldn't be without okay, we spent too much time together, we need to find a new place. So once as the vaccinations were available, the first thing we did was check all the local clubs, and then Cottage Park was the one say, welcome, and here, please, we accept you right away. And it became, for us, the place 5 years later. We feel welcome, we feel that we're part of a community, and the stomping ground for us to really get to know and have very deep, meaningful friendships and relationships with you, with many people that open, sharing a meal, they open their hearts and their homes to all of us. And that is something we never will take for granted, and we see each other living here for good until, food front, like they say. That's it. What about me? Not about me. So yeah, I'm here to stay. We love it here. We're here to stay. But also we believe that one part of it is that when you live in one place, you have to learn how to give back. because you're not a taker. You especially as a woman, you have to give, and you want to your place to your community to be rising in the future, prepare for the challenges that we all know that the town has. How to be active in it and just not let other people take the decisions. We just have a voice. So I moved to the U.S. in 2012 to do a master's degree in administration, and I live in Cambridge for a long time. I'm originally from Colombia, and I'm glad to see a Colombian restaurant in Winthrop. I encourage everybody to visit. It's actually really good. And I have two real estate technology startups. First, helping people that when they moved here for the first place didn't have either a credit score or a social security, and so they couldn't rent an apartment because of it. So we use technology to, partner with realtors like you. Hey, I'm new, I'm coming from Germany, I don't have a social, how do I rent an apartment? So I learned in my first two companies a lot about the demand and the supply of housing and how the rental market and the housing market in Massachusetts is just, in the US, well, in Massachusetts is really not only constrained by price, but constrained by demand and lack of supply. And I have dedicated my time to teach investors how to make meaningful communities, investing in areas where they don't believe they can make not only good returns, but having accessible housing for people that move here and want to have a new life. So I have dedicated my time to it, not only by teaching investors and real estate agents, but also doing a little bit of technology, how to use AI and how to do calculators and how to educate yourself within your own rights. And this is what you can do, and also not only taking care of the owners, but also tenants. So I have helped in my career, I think about more than 700 people land a safe house and a safe house in a community from all over the world in all this time. So that's what I do. Sometimes I work from home, but I love also all the beautiful coffee shops that we have. Adriana's is really good. Selva is, I think, my favorite. Pomona has really good snacks. So I like working in all the different coffee shops and looking at the water. What, you too?
Yeah.
Cafe.
So you cannot live in a part of it and just treat it like a place you go to sleep. That's not what Winthrop is. And I love, as we were discussing, how to bring more yoga and how to be more active in the future of the town, and how to make this better for everybody. We're gonna be here for a long time. We look at the statistics. A lot of people here are 55 or older. In 20 years from now, what's gonna happen to the revenue? How the town is gonna look like for the next generation to come? Do the people that do not speak English here feel welcome? So how do we make a Winthrop that is good for everybody? And I think that's part of the conversation, and that's why I joined Winthrop Working Together, and I'm happy to, be a bridge in any way we can.
Thank you, Clara. Next, I'd like to introduce Mary Krasafi. Mary is a lieutenant in Winthrop Police Department.
Hi, just want to say hi to everybody back there.
Thank you for your service.
They have a table in front of them, so it's hard for them to stand up. So I've got to go back to the people. Yeah, I've been with the Winthrop Police Department for, it's hard to believe, 29 years. So I'm on my way towards retirement, which makes me a little sad because I love everything I'm doing and that our department has done with the community. And I want to also recognize two other ladies there, retired officer Dawn Armistead, detective. And so outgoing, incoming, Detective Jen Adamson. So connected with women and law enforcement. We have a great, great department. We have right now currently 4 women, very competent, a lot of young women coming in. But, honest to God, Jen was the president of her academy class, which is really, it's amazing because it's male dominated. No male bashing. We have great guys on our department as well, but this is a women's forum, so I speak about the women. We have Jen, we have Sergeant Samantha, what's her name? Peterson Farino. Like just really great, really great. really educated, informed. And so we do a lot of partnerships with Department of Public Health and Meredith, with domestic violence, with substance abuse, housing, constantly. So I think, again, it's no knock on men, but women tend to be more comfortable picking up the phone and saying, hey, we have this resident who's like homeless, can you help? And so we follow it through on our calls. And it's great to have these partnerships. I can speak to everybody here. The partnerships with like Lantern and other businesses in town, thanks to the chamber over there that are helping push the businesses. I sold my house in Revere through Lantern, Leanne. I was in Revere. I'm born and bred here, right? So I'm a townie. But when I was young, you really weren't a townie unless you had a few generations in. But that's all changing now, as Clara had said, and the other transplants. But so now you can move here and be accepted and make a life where before it was a little difficult, but that's okay. And I've witnessed the diversity. When I grew up, there was very minimal type of diversity. So it's nice to see. You got to change with the times, or else you'll be left behind. So and with that being said, our department as well has been changing with the times. I just can't speak enough as to what a great department we have. When Meredith mentioned the opioid problem. So here's one of the things. When they brought it up in when did it start changing? 2014 it started to change, and people with addiction problems used to be called junkies. And then we started to change the language with substance use disorders. And change is hard, so it goes to change, right? Change is a little hard, but the more you take your little baby steps and you step into it, you can wear the mantle. So it became, I'm not gonna lie, they're just junkies. What are you talking about? Then we started, you had to write your reports, substance use disorder. Now it becomes second nature, and so honest to God, language matters. It changes your brain. Wait a minute, that's not a junkie. That's somebody's son. That's somebody's daughter. And so with that, you take the extra step to, why are we arresting these people? What are they going to do? They're going to sit in the cell. They become a liability for our department. God forbid they overdose or something happens. So, it's been such a great initiative to see that change. And it's spearheaded by people like Meredith, another strong woman, all the different legislators and the politicians. So it's little things like that make a huge world of difference. I went to Revere and bought a house there because when I was looking to buy, I couldn't afford to live in Winthrop. So I raised my son in Revere. It was all right. So I finally came back to Winthrop, and I love it. I'm up at Fort Heath, so talk about community, women, a lot of older women too. We have one here too, over here. Where are you? Oh, right here. Cynthia, she lives there. So, I could go on and on. We work under our Chief Goodwin. He's pretty good about initiatives, allowing us to do things. We all belong to the Massachusetts Association of Women in Law Enforcement. Why is that important? Because they bring up initiatives like, you wouldn't believe how many departments don't even address pregnancy. Right. What? There's only I think the statistic is 14% of offices nationwide are women, 14%. So, we're making strides. It's always been, male dominated. And at one point, maybe it had to be because, you're there to lock up the bad guys. Very important, very important. We have a great detective unit. They're doing phenomenal on the drug stuff. But the flip side of that is the community policing, which, again, we have Deputy Chief Rogers, who spearheaded a lot of our initiatives in the community. But basically it's like him, Sergeant Farino, and myself. And then we pull in people as we need. But the community events is what ties us all together. Like, you'll have something lantern down the center, we'll go to that, or you'll invite us. And, we all put tables out. We all try to do things together. The CASA night, we have CASA in town to prevention and education against youth violence, gang violence. It's huge. I have to make a plug for it. I don't know who you vote for the fire station. It's your own business. However, if you vote for the center, we get to keep the gym. We want the gym because on Friday nights for I don't know how many years, pre-pandemic, we have been hosting open rec for middle school kids, 6th to 8th grade. They have nowhere to go. It's been that way since I grew up. There's no youth center here. We have over 70 kids come for free because we got a grant, Shannon grant. So that's my plug. Again, that's run by Community Services, CASA, female-oriented, Amy Epstein, director. Myself, Sergeant Farino. We have people that come from Suffolk County Sheriffs under the guise of Stacy Wood. She's a community person. She sent her sheriffs down. Big, gigantic guys. 2 guys walked in last night real fast, and I said, I see them walking down the hall. I go, who are these guys? So I got Jarrell Henderson, who moved into town. Great guy. I said, Jarrell, he's in the South Bay. He's in South Bay as a corrections officer. Jarrell, can you go find out what the guys are doing? There goes big Jarrell. Hey, what are you doing? You have children here? And so anyways, it turned out he's a new employee for the DPW, but nobody had met him yet. So, but these are the partnerships, right? Again, so that's it. I talked a long time.
Thank you so much.
Oh, wait. Also with Open Rec, we have a partnership with District Attorney's Office that we have a woman who moved into town and we grabbed her, Jackie Lamont. So she's a Winthrop resident. See, these are all the little hidden gems you have that you don't really realize until you're out talking to people. So like, she's with the District Attorney's Office, Jackie, and she's very child-oriented. She can tell you more what she does, but it's Jackie, you have to come to Open Rec. So she volunteers her time on Friday night, goes in the back room, does bingo and all kinds of stuff, gives them all sugar. It's unbelievable. But the kids love it. Jackie, they call me ma'am. They call Sam Miss because she's young. So, ma'am, is Jackie coming this Friday? Is Jackie coming? Yeah, I don't know. You have to wait and see if she shows up. But so again, another strong female role model. That's what we try to be, trusted adults to the kids in the community. That's my favorite thing. That's why I spend so much talking about it. But it's really, really important. So thank you to the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, too.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Hannah Belcher. She is town councilor for Precinct 3 and our town council vice president. Hannah.
There you go. Vice President.
First, I'd just like to thank Winthrop Working Together for organizing this. It's no small feat to pull together an event like this, and to have a room this packed is really incredible. So I just want to give a round of applause to Cassie and the whole team. Also, I genuinely forgot that I also had to speak. I've been so enraptured listening to these women. It's really humbling to be asked to do something like this and to be up here with these women. I've been in Winthrop my whole life. My family's been here for many, many generations. I got involved because, again, it's kind of has a COVID tie-in, which seems to be an interesting commonality among a lot of the stuff that's been said so far. I had time. I had finished my master's at Harvard, so I had a little free time. So I started getting involved in committees. I joined the scholarship committee and the Winthrop Airport Air Noise and Hazards Committee. After that, I noticed that Precinct 3 was in need of a new counselor. It was election season, so I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring. I thought I knew what I was getting into. I did not, but I am so grateful I did it because I've met all of these women up here through my work on the council. For anyone who doesn't know, the council is our legislative body in town. We write the laws and we approve the budget. Those are kind of the two big things that we're charged with, but I think one of the most important things we can do is be out in the community. I try and go to as many events as I can. I think a lot of my colleagues do the same, and that's how you meet people, right? I met Tracy as my colleague on the council. I met Clara through yoga on the beach. I met Nicole when I was boxing. I met Meredith through public health stuff. Mary through the Citizens Police Academy, which I highly recommend. It was that was one of my favorite things I've done. It was incredible. So really, I cared about the community before I got involved, and now I really care about the community. It's things like this and people like yourselves who spend time to come out and learn about the community. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here. It's very easy to get in the cycle of wake up, go to work, come home, and that's it. And that's great. If you can do that, it means we're doing something right? Like nobody's upset about something, it means things are going smoothly. But there's a lot that this community has to offer. Things change over time. It is a very different Winthrop than I grew up in, but it's going to change whether you're involved or not, so you might as well get involved and have a say. So I'm encouraged to see more women getting involved and more people who are new to town. It's easy to forget that people who've been here 20, 30 years still feel like transplants. I know I'm probably guilty of that mentality. Not probably. It's hard to shake when you go, well, they're around my age, they're in Jack's waiting for a coffee, I don't know who they are. Like it happens, but I'm trying to be better, and this work helps me be better with that, because some of the people who are newer to town bring the newest perspectives, and that's how we can really shape Winthrop of the future. We spend a lot of time talking about what Winthrop has been like, what it was like when we were growing up, when our parents were growing up. But that's in the past. It's important for perspective, but we need to bring Winthrop forward. And I think events like this and people like these women up here today and all of you in the audience are how we do that. So it's very encouraging to see a drive for people to come together, get involved, and do the work. So.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you. What incredible introductions. You know, usually when you ask people for an introduction, they'll give you like a 60-second elevator speech that they have prepared, and, you know, we're afraid we're going to have enough time to like tease everything out of them. I've got 20 life skills. I've jotted down 5 names of people I need to connect with and everything else. And I don't know if Winthrop Working Together had the foresight when they assembled this panel and invited this panel, the level of intersection that we're seeing here. I mean, I, looked at these names, okay, this is the silo, this is where they work, and just kind of the intersection that happens here. And I think that's my number one takeaway just from the introductions alone, and we're going to get into a little bit more, is no one does their job in a silo. No one does their job alone. And you couldn't be successful as a police officer if you didn't have public health and town council and people who are business owners and entrepreneurs willing to work with you. So just, I got to give you ladies a round of applause. That's just really incredible. Thank you. So the next page, we have a series of topical items that are just going to pull out a little bit. I talked about how, people usually have a prepared elevator speech. If I meet somebody new, I only have to meet you for 60 seconds. I give you the download, and then I can walk away and breathe, and I seemed intelligent enough. But I think we can admit these are all incredible people here, and just a snapshot of who we're living with side by side here in Winthrop. And the next series of conversation items, and it's meant to be informal, kind of like town council. We're going to throw a topic out there. You guys can talk amongst yourselves and share with us a little bit, just to tease out some of the stuff that you don't get in the elevator speech, right? So a lot of you did a great job of kind of describing how you arrived at where you are at today. And I think some have taken very parochial paths, right? School, education, job, career, and some are on second and third acts. And no matter which path you take, I think there's different opportunities that get us to where we are. And I think that success happens at the intersection of preparation and opportunity. But I think the spark in all that is inspiration. So what inspired you to do what you do? And how can we encourage more women, young women, and even men to get involved? Go ahead.
Other women inspire me to be the best that I can be. I work with like I said, I've met so many amazing people, and I'd say 90% of them are women. And when I see somebody stepping up and helping out and giving of their time and their skills, it's inspiring, and I want to contribute. It's kind of like when you see somebody, you're on the train, you're minding your business, you're doing your thing on the way to work, and you see somebody do something really kind for somebody else. And it's catchy. You're like, I should have. Yeah. So we all have it in us, I think some of us just need a little bit of encouragement to get there, to step up and be part of your community, and get a little bit out of your comfort zone. And if you see somebody that you think, wow, they'd be great on this committee, they should run for council, I'd love to have a cup of coffee with them. Ask them for the cup of coffee. Say, meet me here, let's talk, let's chat. Go to yoga class. And I do want to put in a little plug for the Citizens Police Academy, which was amazing. If you have a chance to do it in the fall, you won't regret it. I knew next to nothing about our police department, and I learned so much of the breadth of what our police does. Our police department is amazing. Thanks.
Awesome. Anybody else want to jump in on? Sure. Go ahead.
I think it's easy for women to forget our long list of skills that we have. I know I tend to do it, and this is feedback I get at work and politically is you have skills, use them, you know, and know that you have them. So, like Tracy mentioned, seeing other women in positions is a reminder, like, hey, she can do it, I can do it. So knowing your skills and knowing how to apply them, like in my day job, I work at Harvard University, which is very bureaucratic. There's a lot of red tape, and I said, hey, I know how to deal with red tape. I know how to deal with the frustrations of things that move slowly, that there's a lot of politics involved, so where can I use that in my community? And the council was the easy answer to that. So everybody has a very specific set of skills that they've developed through their professional life, their personal lives. So think about what you're good at and own what you're good at and find where that fits in the community, because you need all kinds of skills and all kinds of people to make things work.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Nicole?
Yeah, I would just like to, great answers by both of you. Like Tracy was saying, it's the integrity. You know, there's two sayings that kind of like go through all of this, and it's fake it until you make it and lead by example. So those are two things. Like when I first started my business, I didn't really know anything, and I had I'm someone that has to learn everything the hard way, unfortunately, but that's just who I am, and it's been a blessing. And lead by example. Like, I have a daughter. I was a soccer coach. I was all those things, and we are a small town, so people see you, whether you think that they don't or not. Like you said, on the train, on something, help that other person. You don't know like how your actions or who saw what will actually help someone else. Like sometimes you need that little reminder of someone maybe in this room that might feel uncomfortable, and the other person going up and saying, hey, how are you? And inviting them in. So, that's how I would encourage everyone. I get scared at these things. I don't know. I'm a lifelong resident. I don't know. I keep to myself most of the time. So I too am like pushing myself to like get out there more and meet more women and do these public events. So it's just nice to know that there is a welcoming, like you said, that we're all here, and it's like, come on in. What do you have to do?
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now we're going to get a little bit more controversial, slightly. Clara brought up the NFWs, right? And I think there's a lot of us, I'm an NFW too. I got here in 2018 and have really just kind of started peeking my head out a little bit the last couple of years or so. So we asked the question, I come from a place far, far away. I'm from East Boston. I've kind of known about Winthrop. I knew it lived on the other side of the bridge before I got here. But so the question I ask is, why Winthrop, right? Mary, you talked about you were from here, you got exiled to Revere, and then you came back. Right. But why Winthrop, right? What is Winthrop doing right? Why live, work here, raise a family here? Mary, you want to start?
I'll say so from a police perspective, the crime rate is great. We have one entrance in, one entrance out, so we can monitor things really well. We have regional partners with, everybody around. We have the BRIC, it's called, the Boston Regional Intelligence Center. So we all share information. This is nowadays. This is thanks to technology and partnerships. But years and years ago, people from East Boston, my family was from there too, they would come here before technology because nobody knew you, right? So you could do a few crimes and nobody would be looking at you, right? So Winthrop is, you can still let your kid walk to school and feel safe enough. Nighttime is pretty good, and through all our community type events, like officers want to know the people, and the people want to know the officers, because that creates a safer environment for everybody. You know, if you're doing something wrong, I say, hey, Norma, what's up? Why are you doing this? Like, can you, you might say, well, So we have a connection, and we start to have these little relationships, even at the soccer field, like Nicole said. This is when you're out and about. Even if you don't even have to be on committees. When you're out and about and you show up, like for this, you start to see the same faces, and you say, hey, how's it going? So Winthrop is small enough that you can do that. So plus you have a phenomenal beach and great restaurants, and we have a nice political atmosphere with the town council.
I'm one that usually has to write down notes, so you'll see me just kind of doodling. But also somebody who did not grow up in Winthrop. I always say that my husband, who is third generation-ish, I tainted the bloodline because my parents then kind of dropped a little bit in stature for the Winthropians, but but I do think that to what Lieutenant Christopher was saying, and a lot of the folks up here, is that the cohesion of this community is something that I think is very unique. So I misspoke. So after my first son, my oldest son, was born, we moved to Wilmington, built a nice big house there, all of that. We, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Like, my husband has lived on Shirley Street the majority of his life, so we were like, we're gonna get out, and we were back 10 months later. And people would always ask me why, and the best way that I could sum it up is I was working nights, my husband was working days, we had a small baby, and we had a nice plot of land, and I remember him coming home, and I was like, I could die in this house and nobody would even know. Nobody would miss me. Nobody in this community would miss me. And I was like, and so that's when we ended up back on Shirley Street for the 3rd time. But it is, and now kind of in the work that I do, there is this notion of social cohesion, and it's a really big protective factor for communities. And it's easy to see, and in my career and my time here, I think of these bigger kind of very traumatic events, like the pandemic, right? We saw we're under-resourced here. We are not a Revere, a Chelsea, a Boston. We do not have large social service organizations. We don't have healthcare organizations like large ones in our community. You see people take care of each other, and sometimes that also breeds stigma, and that's we bump up with that. But really from this semester, I'm actually co-teaching a class at Boston University School of Public Health, and part of what I have to do is actually introduce the community. So I spent 2 weeks lecturing about Winthrop. My God, I was just the philosophy of it, so that the students could understand. There is so many beautiful attributes to this community, and part of it is the isolation, the quasi-isolation piece. You're kind of we're in even me, I just hesitated to what pronoun I was going to use, because I was like, am I included in the community? Am I part of the community, right? And I do feel like that, but folks take care of each other really well here, and I think that is why that's a big part of why people want to be here and serve their community, for sure.
If I could just plug Meredith's mission. After the tragic shooting a few years back, her team was out there knocking on doors. It's sad, because in a big city in neighborhoods where there's high instances of violence, I don't know what they're doing, but I'll tell you, I'm sure that they're not door knocking to say, are you okay? Do you need services? There might be a small group of youth workers that are doing that, but Meredith's group was out there, and that was pretty phenomenal.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So, now that we see the Rockstar team that we're working with, and again, it's just a sample, I'd like to give you guys an opportunity, just from your perspectives, just to chime in on what do we think that major priorities are that we should be focusing on here in Winthrop? What are the major issues, that we need to be tackling?
I'd say climate resiliency and preparation is a big one. I know that there's a new Citizens Commission on, say the name.
The Citizens Advisory Commission
Citizens
on
Climate Action Committee, or
On climate.
On climate, sorry, CCAC. It was started last year, and they're going gangbusters, and it's so important. We live on a peninsula. We're surrounded by water, and climate change is here. It's real, and we've got to deal with it. We've got to prepare, and we've got to figure out how to mitigate and what we're going to do to just be ready when it comes. And again, take care of each other. We're a small community. We know we can rely on each other, but let's put some things in place to make sure that we can take care of each other.
One thing for sure is the disparity between, as you noticed very well, the price of housing, how insanely the prices are being. Like I see a condo almost for $1 million, and it's been on the market forever. Someone's buy it, but at the same time, we have a lot of people here that are in Social Security, like a small leap check to check that can barely afford rent, that are looking for more places to live, and we are making living here harder and harder. So I think housing affordability, access to housing resources, having the openness to either coordinate a safe way to have housing and more access to public transportation, for example, to bike paths and like perhaps a shuttle that brings to a train, I don't know, that makes living here more affordable for the people that has chosen to stay here for a long term. To me is number one alongside this, because I worry about what happens when your Social Security check is no longer, able to cover your rent, And if you decide to have let's say, you're a small business owner, how your employees are going to live in town, how they can afford to live here. There is no place to live, and the demand is surpass the capacity. To me, that's a real problem. And other problem that I see is for disabled people, and that's something interesting to explore further. How do they access the beach and outdoor parks? Mm-hmm. So accessibility for people in wheelchair, and how they can go to the. I'd like to maybe speak with your team or with DCR and create a path for them in the summer so they can enjoy our beautiful beaches. It's no way for them to. Winthrop should be for everybody, not for only you have a car or not only you have a certain access to certain things. So being able to be more inclusive in our conversations, and being also, I don't know in the future if it's a way for the town to maybe translate the council meetings into Spanish, or have a translator, so the people that are here that English is not the first language, that can have their voices heard on the community, because they own not one but many businesses. Many of the restaurants that we all love are owned by Hispanic community. They just don't feel included and they bring thousands and thousands on revenue and taxes, but they don't feel included in the town decisions. So how we can maybe change that and actually become better for everybody. And last but not least, elder services. I see a lot of people that are 67, 80 that maybe live by themselves, or only 1 to 2 people. How do we know they're being taken care of? How do we know they have enough food? How do we know, how's the mental health process? And is something, and given what's going on, how the mental health is declining or not? How are we taking care of our own mental health? Those are the first thing that comes to me.
That.
Yeah.
So we have the senior center now, used to be Catherine Dixon, now it's Matt, what's his name?
Rhodes.
Matt Rhodes. He's the director. They do outreach, and they're pretty good at it. We have the CLEAR team, again, under Department of Public Health. So when calls come into the police station and we identify people, the police officer goes, knocks on the door. Hey, we saw that this happened. Do you need help? We can try to help you. So I think we're tackling the elder part pretty well, but then again, it comes back to community. If you're living next door to someone and you know that they need services, you can call the Department of Public Health, or you can call the senior center, or you can call Mystic Valley, or you can call the police. We can do a well-being check too if you haven't seen the person, or if you think they're having mental health issues, and we will go sometimes with a social worker in a non-confrontational way and say, hey, can we talk to you? How are you? You know, and try to steer them. So I think Winthrop's doing a pretty good job with that. But I think it would be also incumbent upon the residents to just keep eyes out for elder people or also people that are in domestic situations, domestic violence type situations, because, you know, it starts with, you know, like once you start speaking about it and bringing it out into the open.
Yeah. It's like that whole, like, see something, say something. It
Yeah.
goes further than
Right.
crime. It's being a good neighbor of seeing something, saying something. Hey, how are you? You know,
Right,
do you
right.
need help?
That's one of the things I didn't know we have. Thank you.
I know. Well, and I think that, you know, a lot of this kind of touches on just an overall resiliency of like continuing to build like our networks of resiliency. I was doing some research for a grant the other day, and I found out that the cost of living in Winthrop right now is 53% higher than the state average, which I think we all feel, right, of sorts, and the kind of the gap that is happening. With the folks that, you know, this is such a generational community. I can tell you that we've had a fair amount of people over the age of 60 that have lived here for their whole life, that are now really facing the burden of rent and
Taxes.
and the taxes and things like that. And it's kind of widening to a point where what we do know is that we have a high concentration of folks that are paying greater than 50% of their income towards housing, and like that, and that's normal, right? And so it's you know, between financial resiliency, the climate, you know, even the climate impacts of, you know, flood insurance and how that's impacting people's ability. You know, well, we're right now trying to focus some efforts around like food security. There's this really interesting idea that even for middle income folks, they're facing a lot of food insecurity because there's so much money being paid towards housing that in even accessing healthy foods, are you able to do that in some way? So just some things that, you know, to explore like as emerging issues for sure.
Thank you so much. It's a lot to talk about, and I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're facing here, and it's not the answers I thought I was going to get. Do you think you were going to get different answers there? I did. Now we're going to vote next Saturday, okay, everybody? So the next question is just kind of to probe it. Again, we talk about how everybody has kind of arrived here, different places in their life, different paths and different methodology, but I think as each of us have pondered kind of our path, we think we know what we're going to encounter along the way, and sometimes that propels us, sometimes that kind of gives us that false start, right, and impacts you know, our willingness to proceed. But I'd like to hear from each of you something that surprised you along the way, something you didn't anticipate on your journey. Hannah.
So this has been a very interesting journey overall. Like I said, I've lived in Winthrop my whole life. I'm a product of the Winthrop Public School System. My life has taken some sharp left turns along the way, but Winthrop has always been supportive. I've always felt supported and safe in my community. So once I decided to get involved, I thought I knew who I'd be interacting with and the types of things I would be pushing forward and the thoughts I would have and the beliefs I would have, but a lot of those have been changed in talking to people who weren't in my circle before. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You go outside of your echo chambers, right? We all build our own, and that's normal. That's how you live. But things like the police academy, I think very differently about police as a whole than I did before I was on the council. And I think that's really important, and I try and share that with the people who I know felt the same way I used to feel. But like even with financial stuff and the priorities of the town, it's been really surprising when you look at everything that has to be considered when you make a decision. Even a decision like removing a tree, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody doesn't like trees, I hope. Like trees are pretty well loved things. But when you think about, okay, are we at risk of litigation? Can everybody access this sidewalk with the tree where it is? Can people with mobility issues, sight issues, people pushing baby carriages, people with walkers, like there's just a lot more to consider in every decision that gets made, and I try and carry that into my work life, into how I view national politics, into everything, and I say, there's a lot I don't know about the way this decision was made. So that's been a really eye-opening component of this type of work, and I'm very grateful for it.
I was, we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, put on the line.
I was surprised by how small Winthrop was when I came from a town with, or city with more than 80,000 people. So when I came here, it was very small, and, I was at CBS, and everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew who my husband was, his whole family, the history, the stories. Not prepared for that. It was a little unnerving. But now, and you guys have talked about the interconnectedness and the fact that we take care of each other. That was surprising. Not only people know my business, okay, they know my business, but they reach out and they help each other because they know me. Because they know me, they know my husband, they know his family, they've known him forever. You're immediately part of the community when you move in, whether you like it or not. But we watch out for each other. And I remember it was, I had a cleaning lady, it's just a small story. Cleaning lady come to my house, and there was a little Mrs. Capici, she lived across the street from me, and she was always looking out her window. And a new cleaning lady pulled into my driveway, immediately called the police. But, somebody's watching out for me. I appreciate it, Mr. Capici, she was great. But people, we watch out for each other. We know what each other we're going through. I we hear about everything. We're so small and we're so close, but we care about each other. I love it.
Okay, I'm going to be contrarian. That's so sad. I was surprised to know that if you have not the same color of skin that we all have, you're more likely to be detained by the Winthrop police in the streets. And I didn't know that. And the husband of a friend of mine, she's a banker in Saudi, and she lives in downtown. So my husband works at the airport. We've been here 13 years. And for the first 5 years, if he was driving by himself, he goes stop. It's like, what? And I couldn't believe it, but I have one spirit, I still have a hard time understanding that. So it surprised me a little bit, the lack of diversity that we have. I think it's representative of Massachusetts in general. Surprised me also the small little beautiful business that we have. My favorite being the many favorites besides the coffee shops, all the places I can get plants and the small coffee. We have not one but two libraries here. Wow, that's to me fantastic. And the ways that the small businesses cater to the small community, that to me is beautiful, and it's something that we're not gonna miss. What I would like to see in the future is maybe more support in general from the town to create and sustain and be more welcoming to small businesses. So we have not only more revenue, but more diversity in business, more restaurants that perfectly not Italian, or a bingo place for everybody, things like that.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun.
Right?
Bingo night, yeah.
Yeah, bingo night.
Vegan, vegetarian.
Please.
Yeah, right. We are. I guess I'm gonna answer this question a little more personally. If I think back, through my life, I was already someone that would let someone else decide or let someone else do it. So for me, something that has surprised me is my want to be up here and surrounded by women like this and in a community, and the want to help out in the way I can, because that it was a change of how I used to think years ago. So that's it.
I guess that's very similar to myself. I am from a small town on the South Shore, and everybody's like, "Oh, South Shore people don't come to the North Shore." So, like my parents, if they would come up, they were like, "We should get a hotel room," and I'm like, "I don't know, it's an hour away. It's really okay." But they was like, "Oh, there's a tunnel to go through. This is," and but I do come from a family where civic involvement is very important. My dad was a longtime postal worker, so he delivered the mail, and but he also served as the president of our board, or he was the the president of the Board of Selectmen for like 15 years, and my mom was a teacher in town, and I can tell you I hated it because I could not get away. Not that I really was looking to get away with anything, but it was like literally like in order for me to leave the high school, I had to drive by both of my parents, like places of employment. My mom worked at the elementary school, but her best friends were all at the high school. It was just like a thing. And I was like, I will never do that. And then I was like, lo and behold, here I am. So I do think that it's very comfortable. So that's what surprised me is like that I'm kind of continuing on. And I would have probably reneged it. And I do have that compassion for my own children too. Like, to say, like, Mom actually reads the police reports. So, like, even if somebody you're driving with gets pulled over, I was like, but I will give you, like, some opportunities where, I can understand what they're like, oh my God, again, Mom? I'm like, oh, it's okay, guys. You'll be fine.
I just want to add, though, something backtrack. I was remiss. I forgot to mention we have a fourth female officer. We have Alexis Joyce. She joined us a year or two ago, maybe. And right away, she got involved, too, with Claire team. She's part of that team. She's also a field training officer. These young women, they go out rifle training. And it's, like, pretty cool. So they're not just in the traditional female things of, like, sexual assault. Even though years ago they didn't even have women doing that. Imagine you had a sexual assault and you had to report it to a man when you're already maybe really upset, and that might be uncomfortable. So women have gone a long way. I just wanted to mention Alexis, and we have Vanessa too. Vanessa Peterson LaFlame, but she's part-time, but she's wonderful. She has another woman. She's in Boston Medical as one of the top police security over there. Like, really great. So what surprised me is that I'm a police officer. Never was in my plan at all. I was with a woman. I worked with this woman. She's begged me to take the test with her so she wouldn't be the only female there. So I went. I got the job. She didn't. I wasn't going to do it. I'm a God-fearing person. I asked God for a sign one day because at the beginning, didn't know how women fit into policing. Honest to God, for real. This was 29 years ago. I'm like, what do women do in policing? Like, I'm not going to be beating up some guy or roughhouse. Not realizing that the emerging aspect of the community policing, of all these social services that are tied with policing. You're not just a police officer out there arresting bad guys, women. It's such a diverse job, which makes it so interesting, but it's also up to the officer to put themselves in that position, right? So it was like my first month. I parked on Winthrop Beach. I started walking on the rocks, forgetting you're supposed to be near your car in case of an emergency. And I go, God, you got to help me. This job's boring. You're going to give me a sign. So I looked down on all the rocks, and I found this like piece of wood, but it's just jumped out at me. And for me, it was a cross. And I said, wow. And then so I took that as a sign. I followed that up with something else happened that I won't get into. And then I decided, well, I'm going to give it a go. And so, yeah, it's been 29 years. So I'm surprised that I'm here and how much I have enjoyed it. I've loved it. How many people I've met. It's really nice. I'm going to be really sad to leave. But I'll probably try to volunteer somewhere because it really is nice to be connected to your community and to walk in the store. People know you unless, then otherwise, if not, you go out to eat elsewhere. And I'll end with the tunnel story that Meredith just told. When I was like 18 to 20, I had the best boyfriend. But he was from Quincy, and he was Irish-American, and I'm more of Italian-American, and the mother didn't like me back then. That's how it was. And she used to say, go back to your own side of the tunnel. She lost out on a good daughter-in-law. That's it.
Awesome. So this is kind of the last discussion point, and I just have to say, to the folks from Winthrop Working Together, and Cassie and Scott and Lee and Julia, I think this surpassed the expectations, right? I didn't know what to expect when they invited me. I'm like, I don't know why you're asking me, but all right. I mean, apparently I talk a lot. But, I feel like we learn more than just the questions we asked. I feel like I have like 6 new BFFs. I feel like everybody in this room does too. We know like a lot about you ladies, not just kind of the mechanical of, point A to Z and how you got here. We learned about your motivations. We learned about, what drives you to do it every day. And just, again, the interconnectedness. It's just not lost, can't be lost on any of us. And so we want more of you, right? We want more of you in people on your first act, these young little ladies, the little one that's in there. First act, second act, third act, men. How can we all be more like you? How can we, support you and support women that are coming up, that are at a pivotal time and crossroads in their lives, that are thinking, should I do that? Should I show up? Should I interact with these people? Should I take this opportunity? How can we encourage folks to take those leaps?
I'll be real fast.
Yeah.
I have found in life that if I have a decision to make, and I'm scared or whatever, it takes one person to say, it's going to be okay, try it, do it. And so knowing you have that support and encouragement, it makes you take that extra step. And then whether it works out or not, or whether the person stays there or not to support you or whatever it is, it's just knowing, like just having that push. And I think it's very important. So if you see somebody and they're struggling, if you want to encourage them, try it out. Go for it. Do it.
I second that. Sometimes somebody else's faith in me is the turning point for me. Because sometimes I never considered doing that. So I think you could do it. I think you could do that. And just the encouragement.
Right.
So absolutely, Mary.
Yeah, I think everybody in the room here is doing exactly this right now, right? It's encouraging to see people who want to come out and hear women in the community speak. It's encouraging to see people who want to be engaged in the community. There's a decent amount of people here that I've seen at other events, but there's also a lot of people I've never seen before. So that's also really encouraging to see the reach of organizations like this growing in the community. And it's come up a few times, Mary just mentioned it, Tracy mentioned it, just telling other people they can do it and they have the skill set, and say what you feel. A lot of times you don't want to say, oh, well, I think they'd be really good, but it'd be kind of weird if I reached out and said that. Say it. Sometimes that's all it takes is somebody hearing it from someone else. Especially as women, I think we downplay our ability to achieve a lot of things that we are quite capable of. And I know for me, it takes another woman just saying, why don't you do it? What's the worst thing that can happen?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think just being involved, talking to people, and telling people if you think they should be involved. That goes a long, long way.
We have an ability that sometimes respectfully, normal couriers, guys don't have, is that if we see a problem, we want to go and solve it right away. We don't wait for anybody to solve it, and that's nature to many of us business owners or entrepreneurs. So I'm going to pinpoint something you say. What is the worst thing that will happen if you do it? And you see actually nothing, but then just what are you waiting for? Sometimes it's you're leading by your own fears instead of what the best outcome can be. And what is stopping you is your own mind, but nothing else. So when someone says, there is nothing actually to lose if you take that next step, I will only say lead with authenticity. Just be you. Don't try to be who you are not, because then that's not going to play well for yourself or in the future. Just be authentically trying to solve whatever is the thing that you want to do. And that's where you're going to feel more comfortable once you do it and do it well. It's like, wow, it wasn't that terrible. And just going to give you the caffeine that you need to keep going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just showing up, sometimes people also just need an ear, like they need to be heard, is a big thing. And I just like to say, like, how wonderful this has been, advertised, and, like, how positive it has been, sitting here, and also, like, on the social media and all of the stuff. Like, that's a big support, like, being positive and you know, you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. Like, so it's like, it's one of those things that it's an energy thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
you can do this, I believe in you, like, that whole positive, outlook, yeah.
I mean, I feel very much the same as everybody up here, that this it also has surpassed I had zero I didn't know what to expect. I was honored that, you know, that I was asked to sit up here, for sure. I, you know, in kind of in that same vein about the energy, and, you know, I think it's also important that we bring our listening ears, and, like, you know, folks are not often going to share kind of what their challenges are, or what their vision is, and but I think, you know, listening and giving people this space, like a safe space to talk in the community is a huge thing, and also supporting women in particular, and you know, I have a 20-year-old daughter, and, you know, I think you know, I look back at the last, like, 5 years in particular, and I think that it's been great for her to see women in really strong leadership roles in this community, and we see more and more of that. And, you know, I think in particular, like, children learn what they live, and the more that we can encourage representation from all gender, socioeconomic, and you know, racial and ethnic demographics, this community will just continue to thrive for sure.
John and I were talking one time, walking, like, at one point, we had, how many, John? Female businesses. When Dawn had Shoreside, now Salva. Across the street was the bra place, what's her name?
Cassandra Harris, yeah.
What's her name?
Eyes on Me.
Eyes on Me.
No, not Eyes on Me. Cassandra Harris.
Cassandra Harris had her place. Blue, Kara Sims. And, and that's when Lauren Murphy was just named,
Yes.
I mean, a female head of a hardware store. I was blown away. So you had 4 women at the same time, all women businesses. Like, so I would encourage the red tape to be.
And our friend from Twisted Shake.
And Twisted Shake. That's right. Twisted Shake, that's right.
Robin's Nest. Yes.
It's awesome.
That was fantastic. I want to thank you all for participating in this and volunteering to get up here and speak. I know it's a little uncomfortable sometimes, but I'm also just wowed by all the people that came out and wanted to have conversations with people in the community. Mary pointed it out already, but there's a lot of good people in this crowd that I didn't even get to reach out to, because the first people I reached out to said yes. So I would encourage you to hang out and have some refreshments with us and get to know your neighbors in the community, and just thank you all for making this such a fantastic event. And thank you.
Thank you.